A vibrant young woman travels across the world for love, but instead of a fairy tale ending, she faces a nightmare. What went wrong in the life of Ashley Wadsworth? Stay tuned as we unravel a story of love, betrayal, and the ultimate tragedy that will leave you questioning humanity. Welcome to the Tales Across Times, where we dive deep into real-life true crime stories, bringing you detailed accounts that are carefully researched and crafted with love and respect for the victims and their loved ones. Every story shared here is a reflection of the lives that have been impacted and the justice that continues to be sought. On February 1st, 2022, a quiet neighborhood in Chelmsford, England, was shattered by the sound of screams coming from the apartment of 23-year-old Jack Seal. The eerie silence that followed was a stark contrast to the horror that awaited the responding police officers. When they arrived at the scene, they made a horrifying discovery. 19-year-old Ashley Wadsworth, a Canadian teenager who had traveled to England to meet Jack, was found dead. She had been brutally murdered, her lifeless body bearing the signs of a vicious and calculated attack. As news of the tragedy spread, the community was left stunned and searching for answers. Who was Ashley Wadsworth, and what had led her to this tragic end? To understand the events that unfolded, we must delve into the complex and troubled history of Ashley and Jack's relationship. Ashley, a bright and adventurous teenager from Vernon, Canada, had met Jack online 7 years prior, when she was just 12 years old. Despite the distance between them, they had maintained a long-distance relationship, with Ashley eventually making the decision to travel to England to be with Jack. But as Ashley's family and friends would later reveal, there were warning signs from the very beginning. Jack's controlling behavior, his volatile temper, and his tendency to isolate Ashley from those who cared about her. All these red flags had been ignored or downplayed by Ashley, who was convinced that she could help Jack overcome his demons. As we explore the twisted and tragic events that led to Ashley's murder, we will examine the complex dynamics of their relationship. What led Ashley to this tragic end? To understand, we must start at the very beginning. Ashley's background. Ashley Wadsworth was born in 2002 in Vernon, Canada, a small picturesque town nestled in the heart of British Columbia. The town's stunning natural beauty, with its rolling hills and crystal-clear lakes, was the perfect backdrop for Ashley's idyllic childhood. She was known throughout the community for her infectious smile, her adventurous spirit, and her unwavering kindness. A deeply family-oriented young woman, Ashley was described by loved ones as someone who lit up every room she entered. Her parents, siblings, and extended family were her rock, providing a supportive and loving environment that encouraged her to grow and thrive. Ashley's love for her family was evident in everything she did, from her frequent phone calls and video chats to her thoughtful gestures and small surprises. It was against this backdrop of love, support, and small-town charm that Ashley met Jack Seal online. She was just 12 years old at the time, a bright-eyed and curious preteen who was eager to explore the world beyond her hometown. Jack, who was several years older, seemed charming and attentive, and the two quickly struck up a conversation. What began as innocent online chats soon blossomed into a long-distance relationship. Over the years, Ashley and Jack stayed connected, despite the miles between them, dreaming of one day being together in person. They would spend hours talking on the phone, sharing stories, and making plans for their future. But behind Ashley's youthful optimism was a dangerous lack of awareness about who Jack truly was. Her family and friends would later reveal that they had concerns about Jack's behavior, his controlling tendencies, and his volatile temper. But Ashley, blinded by her love for him, had ignored these warning signs, convinced that she could help Jack overcome his demons. As the years went by, Ashley's relationship with Jack became increasingly intense and all-consuming. She would often go to great lengths to accommodate his demands, sacrificing her own needs and desires in the process. Her family and friends grew worried, sensing that something was amiss, but Ashley was too deeply invested in the relationship to listen. Jack's background. Jack Seal, born in 1999 in Essex, England, had a troubled upbringing that would forever shape his tumultuous personality. His childhood was marked by instability and chaos, with a history of domestic violence and substance abuse that would leave an indelible mark on his psyche. As he grew older, Jack's behavior became increasingly erratic and volatile. He had a short fuse, and his anger issues often boiled over into explosive outbursts. Those who knew him described him as intense and controlling, with a tendency to manipulate those around him to get what he wanted. Despite his troubled past, Jack had a charm that was undeniable. He was charismatic and persuasive, able to weave a web of deceit that would ensnare even the most cautious of individuals. And so, when he met Ashley online, he was able to present himself as a charming and devoted partner, masking the darker parts of his personality behind a facade of love and devotion. As their bond deepened, however, red flags began to emerge. Jack's behavior became increasingly obsessive and possessive, with a growing need to control every aspect of Ashley's life. He would often become angry or upset if she didn't respond to his messages immediately, or if she didn't do exactly as he said. And yet, despite these warning signs, Ashley remained blinded to the danger ahead, convinced that her love could overcome any obstacle. Jack's manipulative behavior was subtle at first, but it soon became more overt. He would make Ashley feel guilty for not doing what he wanted, or for not being available to him at all times. He would play on her emotions, using his charm and charisma to get her to do his bidding. And Ashley, desperate to please him and keep the peace, would often find herself capitulating to his demands, even when they went against her own needs and desires. As the months went by, Ashley's family and friends began to notice a change in her. She seemed more withdrawn and isolated, less confident and self-assured. And yet, whenever they expressed their concerns, Ashley would brush them off, insisting that everything was fine, that Jack was a good person who loved her deeply. But the truth was far more sinister, and it would take a tragic turn of events to reveal the true extent of Jack's manipulation and control. Ashley's journey to England. Ashley's journey to England was one she had dreamed of for years. In November 2021, she finally boarded a flight to meet Jack, the man she had fallen deeply in love with online. Her 6-month visa gave her plenty of time to experience life with him and explore a new country. As she stepped off the plane, Ashley's heart was racing with excitement, and she couldn't wait to start her new life with Jack. Initially, things seemed perfect. Jack showered Ashley with affection, and the two enjoyed a brief honeymoon period. They spent their days exploring the English countryside, holding hands and laughing together. Ashley was convinced that she had made the right decision in leaving her family and friends behind to be with Jack. But the cracks in their relationship began to show almost immediately. Jack's controlling nature became apparent as he isolated Ashley from her family and friends. He would often become angry or upset if she tried to contact them, or if she didn't respond to his messages immediately. Ashley, who had always been close to her loved ones, felt a deep sense of loss and disconnection. As the weeks turned into months, Jack's behavior grew increasingly erratic. He became jealous and possessive, often flying into fits of rage over minor disagreements. Ashley, however, remained hopeful, believing that she could help him change. She thought that with enough love and support, Jack would overcome his demons and become the loving partner she had always dreamed of. But behind closed doors, the abuse worsened. Jack physically and emotionally tormented Ashley, keeping her under his control. He would often belittle her, making her feel worthless and insignificant. He would also become violent, leaving Ashley with bruises and scars that she couldn't explain. Despite her family's growing concern, Ashley downplayed the situation, insisting that she was fine. She didn't want to worry them, and she was convinced that she could handle the situation on her own. But inside, Ashley was trapped in a nightmare, unable to escape. She felt like she was walking on eggshells, never knowing when Jack's temper would flare up again. As the months dragged on, Ashley became increasingly isolated and withdrawn. She stopped responding to her family's messages, and she ceased to post on social media. Her loved ones were frantic with worry, but Ashley was too afraid to reach out for help. She was trapped in a cycle of abuse, and she didn't know how to escape. The tragic event on February 1st, 2022, the stormy relationship between Ashley and Jack reached a catastrophic breaking point. The argument that unfolded that day was not unusual, but the violence that followed was unprecedented. Jack's rage, which had been simmering beneath the surface for months, finally boiled over. In a fit of uncontrollable violence, Jack strangled and stabbed Ashley over 90 times. The brutality of the attack was staggering, with evidence of defensive wounds on Ashley's hands and arms, suggesting that she had fought desperately for her life. But Jack's strength and fury had proved too much, and Ashley's life was cruelly cut short. What made the crime even more chilling was Jack's complete lack of remorse. In a shocking display of callousness, he recorded a video admitting to the murder, his voice devoid of emotion, as he described the events leading up to Ashley's death. But that was not the only disturbing act that Jack committed that day. In an act of unspeakable cruelty, Jack showed Ashley's lifeless body to his sister, seemingly reveling in the shock and horror that he had inspired. This brazen display of brutality sent shockwaves through the community, with even the most seasoned investigators left reeling by the sheer scale of Jack's depravity. As news of the murder spread, Ashley's family and friends were left to grapple with the unimaginable loss of a vibrant and loving young woman. Her life, filled with so much promise and potential, had been cruelly cut short by the very person she had trusted the most. The tragedy of Ashley's death would leave an indelible mark on all those who knew her, a heartbreaking reminder of the devastating consequences of domestic violence and abuse. Jack's arrest and trial. When police arrived at the scene of the crime, Jack offered no resistance, his demeanor eerily calm. As he was taken into custody, he was immediately arrested and charged with Ashley's murder, the weight of the evidence against him already beginning to mount. As the investigation continued, the true extent of Jack's abusive behavior was revealed. Witnesses came forward to describe his controlling and possessive nature, and the numerous instances of physical and emotional abuse that Ashley had suffered at his hands. The prosecution also presented a wealth of digital evidence, including text messages, emails, and social media posts, which painted a damning picture of Jack's guilt. But it was the horrifying video that Jack had recorded, calmly describing the events leading up to Ashley's murder, that proved to be the most devastating piece of evidence. The video, which was played in court, left the jury and spectators alike in stunned silence, its impact a testament to the sheer brutality of Jack's crime. In July 2022, Jack pleaded guilty to Ashley's murder. His decision to do so, a tacit acknowledgement of the overwhelming evidence against him. He was sentenced to life imprisonment, with the possibility of parole after 23 years. While the sentence provided some measure of closure for Ashley's family, they knew that no punishment could ever bring their beloved daughter and sister back. For Ashley's family, the trial had been a harrowing ordeal, forcing them to relive the trauma of her murder and confront the man responsible for her death. But they had remained steadfast throughout, driven by a desire to see justice served and to ensure that Jack would never be able to harm anyone else again. As they left the courtroom on the day of Jack's sentencing, Ashley's family felt a sense of relief wash over them. They knew that the road ahead would be long and difficult, but they took comfort in the knowledge that justice had been served and that Ashley's memory would live on through their love and determination. Aftermath. Ashley's death sent shockwaves through her family, friends, and community. Her loved ones were left devastated, grappling with the loss of a young woman who had brought so much joy to their lives. In Vernon, a vigil was held in Ashley's honor, with hundreds gathering to celebrate her life and mourn her tragic death. Her family also advocated for greater awareness of domestic abuse, emphasizing the importance of laws like the UK's Clare's Law, which allows individuals to check if their partner has a history of abuse. Ashley's story is a stark reminder of the dangers of ignoring red flags in relationships, particularly in long-distance dynamics, where trust can easily be manipulated. It also highlights the importance of accessing resources like domestic violence support services and disclosure schemes to protect oneself from harm. Her family's strength in raising awareness about domestic abuse ensures that her story will not be forgotten. At The Tales Across Times, we share stories like Ashley's, not just to recount the events, but to honor the lives lost and learn from their tragedies. Ashley was more than a victim. She was a daughter, a sister, a friend, and a bright light extinguished far too soon. If this story moved you, we urge you to share it and help spread awareness about the importance of recognizing abuse early. Let Ashley's legacy inspire us to create a world where no one has to suffer in silence. Ashley's life was filled with love, laughter, and dreams of a bright future. Her tragic story is a testament to the need for vigilance, education, and compassion. May her story serve as a reminder to cherish our loved ones and to take action against abuse wherever we see it.